I'm joined today by Lori Carcich. Lori is the founder, CEO, owner of Country Smooth. Lori, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you, Tony, for having me and for giving Country Smooth the opportunity to tell our story. And it's an honor and privilege.
Well, all right, let's start first. I want to hear, tell me a little bit about you, like maybe outside of whiskey or pre-whiskey. Let's start with that.
Okay, so from a personal perspective, I'm married. I'm a wife and mom of three. I have three children, healthy and happy, and children ages 15, 13, and 10 and a half. They're really the light of my life. When I'm not parenting, I really enjoy backpacking. I just finished a 138-mile backpacking trip. And this
Wow.
year, us on the John Muir Trail, which is pretty legendary. It's like the mecca for backpackers, really around the world. That took about 13 days. So I've always been into outdoors. I've been hiking, climbing, and competed in triathlons, in fact, for many years. And during COVID, I took my love for hiking next level with backpacking, which was new to me about a year and a half ago. And since then, I have backpacked about 305 miles
Wow.
in my trips. So you can say I'm addicted to that,
Yeah.
right? Love gathering with friends and family. We're a big sports family. I was born and raised loving sports, college football, baseball. Speaking of baseball with you.
Mm-hmm.
And really am into music, country music. It's definitely my genre of choice. And I'm not working with my kids. We're backpacking. We're entertaining friends and family.
Yeah, that's awesome. It sounds like it's cool because I think a lot of people got into things during COVID that kind of gave them an opportunity to expand their horizons a bit. And I think it's definitely cool to see people continuing to do those things, even though we're hopefully past that stage.
Definitely.
So there is a lot of things and looking up some information about Country Smooth and reading up on a couple things, watching some interviews that you had previously done that I think are really cool about the brand and about everything that you're doing. So I definitely want to get into that, but let's go to, how did you start this? Like why, how? My biggest question, like when people are at some stage in their life starting their own whiskey brand, is like they're normally doing something and at some point they have this idea, like the moment of like, do it, jump in and go. Like, what was that like? How did that happen? There's a lot of things right there for you to answer.
So yes, that definitely. So my professional background, which is really important to have this in order to start my business, was I was educated and professionally trained in accounting and finance. My first job out of college was at a CPA firm as an auditor. I graduated from Cal State Fullerton in 2002. I went to work for a very well-known California-based CPA firm as an auditor and received tremendous experience and guidance and mentoring as an auditor, where I learned a lot about business, ins and outs of business, not just about balance sheets and income statements and cash flows, but about how companies are developed, how they're managed, whether it's poor or well managed, boards of directors. It was right during the Sarbanes-Oxley Enron scandal during my first job as an auditor. So the fraud risk component as an auditor was introduced during my tenure at my firm. And it was another phenomenal way for me to understand how companies really have major risks, negative risk of fraud. And that really helped me as well strengthen my understanding of all of it. Then I had my first daughter, who's 15, as I mentioned earlier, and I still wanted to work. I love to work. That's just who I am, but I also wanted to be a mom and not work the long hours, 6 months a year. So I started my own consulting practice and took that from one client out of my CPA firm, where I outsourced controller and CFO. Um, well, I was their CFO, and I took that to 10 clients, roughly 10. And towards the end of that business, I really started focusing on business development. So I started my practice with accounting and financial consultant and management, outsourced CFO, controller, you name it. But then I started really enjoying developing businesses for other people, other individuals, other companies, other casinos, where a company would come to me and say, Lori, I really want to develop a hydroponic fish farm in XYZ area of our land. Can you please figure out how to do so and put together the entire company and that entire component of this company? So that was one of many examples. And I really loved that part of consulting, taking an idea and putting together an in-depth feasibility study with RFPs, et cetera, and turning it into something actually tangible and going from there. So that was my experience from college to starting Country Smooth professionally. But as I said, we've been entertaining friends and family since I was a young child at my parents' house and now at our home. And with my love of sports, music, entertaining, brown liquor was just a part of everything we did my entire life. And I wasn't a bourbon or whiskey drinker or scotch, but my dad had been drinking brown liquor since I was very young, and lots of family and friends. And it was in the music I listened to, for the most part, country music. There was all a song about women and whiskey.
Yep.
Usually they went together, right? So I wanted to be able to drink whiskey neat. That was my goal. I normally am a Ron Bar Chardonnay girl, which I still drink and I really, truly enjoy. But I wanted to be able to drink whiskey, doing all the things that we love to do, again, with brown liquor as part of that. So I set out to create a whiskey company of which all product components were made in America, which today more than ever is extremely, almost difficult to do. I wanted the entire package made in America, glass cap sleeve. Obviously the whiskey bourbon has to be made in America, as we know. I wanted to celebrate America and what we stand for. And that doesn't mean the same thing to everybody, but for what I believe in, that's being thankful to be America. We also, the 5 stars on our bottle represent the 5 branches of the military. And we actually financially support a few different military not-for-profits and are proud of that. And I believe I was America's first female founder, CEO, and owner of an American whiskey company. There have been many, many women in the industry, and I'm really impressed, and I have a ton of respect for them, and whether they're distillers or co-founders or CEOs, partners, you name it, employees. It's exciting to see all the women in this industry, but I believe I was America's first in terms of founder, CEO, and owner of a bourbon company.
I think what's really cool, so a number of things that you just mentioned, like you mentioned, the American made, like that is something going off of Country Smooth, and you're going all American made, and you're going the 5 stars for the branch of the military. You've got your American flag behind you. I'm a big America fan. I've got my American flag right here. So I think it's really cool. I definitely think that everything kind of works together, because I think once people get into different whiskeys, they start to look at the brand as a whole. What does the brand mean? Because you're talking about, your grandpappy in Kentucky in the 1800s is, that's one portion of the bourbon experience, I think. And then you have the other side of like the individual brands that people started because of something that they are maybe feeling strongly about. So you have a passion for like everything in terms of the country music, the country, the military, nonprofits. I think those things are all great. I think it's a cool message. I think it's a cool story. And I think it's a really nice thing for people to want to support. Because like you said, it is hard to find something that's American made and purely American. And that should be something that people respect and really enjoy about Country Smooth, I think.
And thank you. We appreciate that. It's also challenging, really challenging in today's day more than ever to find glass, for example, made in America, almost to the point where it's really almost extinct, made in America glass for craft companies. So that's been very challenging. But we want to celebrate America. That's what we want to do. That's who we are. And very thankful for the opportunity to be here. I feel that doesn't matter what side of politics we are, we're fortunate to be Americans. Mm-hmm. And if I wasn't living in America, I don't know if I'd have the opportunity to do what I do and build what I've built in Country Smooth. So I feel like I never, ever want to lose sight of that. And this company is founded on America and our freedoms. And I'm going to do my best as a leader of Country Smooth to keep that as part of who we are as a company and obviously individually.
Yeah, I think that's a great perspective to see that from. I want to go back when you're mentioning that you're the first female founder CEO of an American whiskey company, because I think that's something that's also really important. And I think what people are starting to see is the rise of females in the whiskey industry. And so such as yourself as a CEO, such as, Jackie Zykan from Old Forester, or Fawn Weaver, or drawing a blank on the woman's name from Michter's, but there's a rise of women in whiskey. And I think it's a really cool shift from, it's not the old man's drink sitting in, the South somewhere on the front porch. It's something that can be enjoyed by everybody. And so I think it's cool seeing that emergence of women that are having a prominent role in whiskey. I think it's a lot of fun to follow along. And you're having a lot of women who are very knowledgeable, who are driving this industry forward and getting more people involved. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. And I think it's a fantastic position for the bourbon industry as well as women to be a part of. I know when I started this company in 2015, I had no experience in alcohol whatsoever. And alcohol it's a really tough industry. I mean, it's phenomenal. And it's multifaceted and the opportunities are incredible, but when you're not from the good old boys club, if you will, and I mean figuratively and literally the good old boys club, and you come in without alcohol experience, it at times was an uphill battle to, number one, prove yourself as a liquor brand with no experience in liquor, but experience in lots of other things, business wise. And number two, as a female, there were so many times I would come to a GSM, or not as much a GSM, which is a general sales manager meeting presentation, or a buyer meeting, or even just key events. And they'd say, "Are you the sales rep?" And I would say, "No, but thank you. I'm the founder and CEO." And so it was interesting. But I think like anything, success breeds success in everything we do. And that success doesn't just have to mean financial success. It means when you're able to overcome one challenge, whether it's in one state or with one distributor in my industry, or raising that first dollar in a fundraise outside of my own money, then once you're able to achieve that success, the next success comes usually a little bit easier, and they build on each other, as well as the challenges and the failures, right? Which of course any business has, including Country Smooth, setbacks, or no, I got told no way more than I was told yes in the first 3 years. And now I think I still get told no, but from experience, expertise, our team, products, you name it, we're able to get some tremendous success. So it's definitely been an experience, but beautiful. And I'm so very thankful. And there are wonderful organizations out there. The Bourbon Women's Association that's based out of Kentucky, I'm a part of. And actually, I was just featured with their Meet the Makers series, an interview through the Bourbon Women's Association. We actually are a member of the Amber Circle, which donates money to other females to support other females in the industry, as well as
Awesome.
Wine and Spirits. We're a part of them as well. So there are excellent ways for women and men to get involved in the industry from a variety of different perspectives, not just for CEOs and owners and founders, but really from an overall perspective. So
Yeah.
it's been an exciting time to watch the women in our industry thrive.
I bet that's got to be cool. It's really cool to see just how much it's, branching out to reach different demographics, and just even geographically. I mean, you have really cool brands popping up in some like places that you probably wouldn't really expect it to, and then you try it out and you're like, that's really good whiskey. And so it's kind of, I think there's a little bit of a shift that's really enjoyable, because from a lot of people I've talked to, it was like the craft beer thing kind of took over, where you start seeing these different craft beers popping up, and then just that popularity skyrocketing. And it was like all of a sudden some whiskey brands start popping up and people tried it, and it's like, okay, this isn't just a brand or just a name or a gimmick, more or less. It's this good stuff. Like, this is really good whiskey. So I think that's where the support comes from, a lot of craft distilleries, a lot of craft brands, because when people try it, they really like the whiskey, and it makes them want to go back and do it again, because you can always find your typical stuff at Total Wine. Like, who doesn't want to support a craft distillery that's trying to make their own name? I think that's really cool.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I also believe from day one, I live by the 4 Ps: passion, partnership, persistence, and the product. And truly every day, those principles get me in as a leader in the company through whether it's like good news after good news after good news of a day, right? Which happens like in one day, for example, in the last month, we received several POs, purchase orders in one day, and then the approval of 2 other states, all like within a day. And there really wasn't any negative news, right? And then you'll have the next day, well, there'll be a challenge of maybe it's glass supply or a distributor challenge or a retail challenge, what have you. But I really do feel like when I really sit back and focus on those 4 Ps, they've really helped the company propel at the rate in which we have. So when we started selling in January of 2016, we were just self-distributed in Southern California, figuring out distribution, which is definitely a steep learning curve. And we're now distributed in 22 states.
Wow. It's incredible.
And we launched our second product, which is what you're drinking and I'm drinking, Tony, which is the small batch bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
And we are set to launch our third product, which is what you're getting in the next 2 to 3 weeks for you to enjoy, which is our first ready to drink bourbon called the Country Mule.
Wow.
That was our third product. And we have 2 cans coming out, likely the first quarter of next year. So this year has been a really exciting growth year for us. We went from 8 states in distribution last December to, I'm going to call it 23 states. And from one product, our horse, which we are so proud of, and that was our first product, our American whiskey, now to 3 products, soon to be 5. So lots of hard work to get there, but really exciting that we're here, and so thankful for the support of so many.
What is that process like? Because you mentioned, you had the American whiskey and that was going good, and then the small batch came out after that.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay.
Right. So we launched with the American whiskey,
Okay.
which is still selling, and I drink that on a regular basis. I would say 3-4 nights a week. It's priced about $25.99 nationally, so good price for an American whiskey. It earned a silver at San Francisco and a platinum at the SIP Awards, Platinum Best in Class.
Wow.
So it's multiple awards, received very well, very excited about that. I wanted to create for our second product a straight small batch bourbon. As you know, straight means aged over 2 years, whereas an American whiskey is aged less than 2 years. And so I wanted to create a straight small batch bourbon that will retail for under $30 and be respected and taste really good for the everyday sipper. And so far, we submitted for 5 awards, including New York, San Diego. They're all actually occurring. 3 are occurring in September and 1 in October. So we'll see how that goes. But we launched our small batch in March of 2021.
Oh, wow.
And we sold out our first bottle run in a few months, and we're going back to production here in the next few weeks. So it's been phenomenal. I believe small batch is, of the 23 states that we're distributed in, small batch is selling in 20 of them. So pretty exciting growth for that brand new product. And our country mule, which is again our first RTD, which is right here. The base of it, so it's 72 proof versus 86 proof, and the base of this, we have not yet mass produced it. We're mass producing it the first time in a few weeks. This is just one of a few samples that I have. But this country mule is a 72 proof base. The base is the same small batch bourbon that you're drinking, but I formulated it to be obviously with all natural flavors, but to be similar as if you're drinking a whiskey mule, a bourbon mule.
Okay.
So the story behind that, Tony, is our first launch event in San Diego in early 2016. We had a few signature drinks created for our event, and one of them was the country mule. And that night and to date, everybody asked for the country mule, like astoundingly popular drink. And it's refreshing in the summer, but
Sure.
it's available year round. So when it came to creating our first ready to drink cocktail, or, obviously ready to drink bourbon, a flavored bourbon, I thought that's what it has to be. It has to be creating the country mule in a glass that people can drink neat or pour over ice. And if they want to create in a cocktail, even great. So this is it. This patch is the color of a mule mug intended.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5 stars, of course, are on the back.
Mm-hmm.
It's all right here in the front is cocktail mugs as well. So that launches, you'll be one of the first to get it in the next 2 to 3 weeks. As soon as we get it in production, I'm going to send you a bottle.
Awesome.
Third product.
I can't wait to try that out. When I got this bottle, I will tell you, I sampled a sip, and then I sampled a sip, and then I had a couple more sips because I liked it, so I kept drinking it. And all of a sudden, I was like, I should probably hold off and not drink all of this right now, just because it's going to be gone before we.
Can I take a picture of that, Tony?
Yeah. This way.
Okay. Thank you.
Of course. Yeah. So I had a couple sips, and I was like, I need to, hold off on that because I don't want to drink it all. But then I went to Total Wine a couple days ago, and I saw it on the shelf. I was like, all right, perfect. So we've got backups.
And we'll send you backups, but I'm glad that you enjoyed. Right. And you're a bourbon neat kind of a guy.
I am. So this is okay. So I had noticed you had mentioned on a couple of interviews you had done, and you mentioned earlier about finding something to drink neat. And I think what's always interesting is I like trying different bourbons, and I love some high proof bourbons. I think some of them are really good. I think some of them are just showing off that they can make the hottest bourbon ever. But like sometimes I don't want to sit down and drink 120 proof bourbon at the end of my day. And so what I think is cool is how everything about the brand kind of works together. Like you said, you want a a bourbon that you can sit down and drink neat. Well, you know what? You've got an 86 proof. Like that's perfect. Like you're not, like I said, you're not gonna sit down and drink 120 proof every single day. Like you want to have something that you can sit down and enjoy and have a second or a third of. Because some of those high proofs, you have a couple of them, and all of a sudden, things get weird. So it's good that you can have, a 86 proof bourbon to sit down and enjoy that's got a ton of flavor. That's a straight bourbon. You've got your 2-year age state or 2 years minimum on there. So I think it goes along really nicely with everything that you've created in terms of the brand. I think it's really cool.
Thank you. Appreciate
What,
that.
what is your, before Country Smooth, what was your whiskey of choice?
I didn't drink whiskey.
Not at all.
No.
Really?
I didn't.
Interesting.
But, my dad has always been a Johnny Walker kind of a guy, a big drinker, until Country Smooth. And he'll sometimes drink Johnny Walker. It's a wonderful product. But Country Smooth is now obviously his beverage of choice. Lots of Bullet around me. Woodford is a phenomenal product that I really enjoy now. Obviously Country Smooth is what I'm drinking, but if for some reason I'm somewhere, I enjoy Woodford, but I was not a whiskey drinker at all. And so the aha moment, which you had asked about prior to, so I'm a firm believer in that aha moment is really a culmination of events and experiences and thoughts that we have accumulated in our minds and in our hearts for a set period of time, right? Whether it's a lifetime, whether it's a month, whatever it is, I do believe it's a culmination of all those things. So it was in November of 2014. My husband and I were at a Luke Bryan concert at the Forum. You know the Forum because you're a California guy.
Yep.
At the Forum with our friends. And we had great seats, and Luke Bryan's fantastic. And, of course, he's singing about whiskey and all the music that he's singing, and he's guzzling down Patron on stage, and it just did a fantastic job. And I was the one who was going back and forth to the bar on behalf of my husband and our friends every time. Somehow I was the bar mule, which was fine. Between Crown Royal and Bullet, that's what they were drinking, and my girlfriend was drinking beer. And I would go back, and I had trouble finding a wine that I prefer. And I'm seeing brown liquor really everywhere beyond my husband and our friends. And I thought, you know what? I want to be able to order bourbon when I come back here, or whiskey that I could drink, that I can enjoy neat on my own, really at a Luke Bryan concert. That's really, like, I want that because I could put it in Diet Coke, which is fantastic, but I want to drink it neat, really. Yeah. And I do enjoy sort of Country Smooth in all different ways, but really that's like the test for me is neat. So I continue to go back and forth to the bar, but I determined that night I'm going to create my own whiskey that's smooth enough for myself to drink and is available at the bar for various concerts and at stores. And I'm going to celebrate America in this company in the package. And so that was November of 2014. And the next morning I told my husband my idea, and he thought I was absolutely crazy. Like, Gloria had no experience in whiskey, none in the alcohol, realm, and you've developed businesses and accounting and finance, and you're tenacious as heck. That's crazy. And I said, I know, but I'm going to do it. So I started meeting with certain people from, variety of perspectives, from alcohol, friends who I knew in the alcohol business, from friends I knew in Hollywood that could potentially help me with some connections there, etc. So from November to February, I really, in addition to my consulting practice and my kids, I hyper-focused on a feasibility study. From talking to a variety of contacts, first the contacts I knew and then referrals from there. You know, I'm a big analyzer. I'm a data girl. So looking on the internet and finding discus reports about the, you know, brown liquor industry, the trends, internationally, domestically, made in America, you name it. Just as if I was hired by a client to do this, which is what I had done in the past. So in February of 2015, Country Smooth became an LLC, and there was no turning back.
Wow.
So it was hundreds of hours of doing a ton of research to make sure that financially, you know, this made sense, because it would take a large investment of my own money initially before I raised a round outside of self-financed. And, you know, we now have 3 trademarks. So formulating different products, it's not an overnight thing. We didn't just pick a barrel and say, okay, we're 2 barrels and that's it. It was formulating and going back and forth and back and forth and formulating to make sure. For me, it wasn't just the initial nose for, you know, and I wasn't formulating a $45 of whiskey for a $40 bottle of whiskey. It had to be affordable, right? But still high quality. So formulating a $25-ish per bottle of whiskey, to me, the entire experience had to be Country Smooth, right? If I'm going to pick up a bottle of Country Smooth at the store and I opened the bottle and it's the initial nose is similar to rubbing alcohol, or in any way,
doesn't work.
I would have a little resentment towards the brand Country Smooth, because when I see the name Smooth in a brand, I'm going to immediately assume it's smooth. And if I have that initial nose, I'm going to now have not a great association with the brand. So all of those thoughts really were an integral part in formulating Country Smooth. So for me, it was the initial nose. This is something that's really interesting and inviting. And it wasn't just an American whiskey, it's in all the products that I've developed and will continue to develop. I have plans for another two different bourbon-based products next year, in addition to the cans. But the initial nose has to be very aromatic and inviting. And then for me, it's not just the initial taste, right? Does it burn on the front and the back end? And I didn't want that burn on the front and the back end, Tony. It needed to have a bit of a burn, but more on the back end, not the front end. And that was the goal. And it sounds silly, but even to the point of the leftover aroma in the glass. So that, to me, it doesn't smell interesting and inviting. And I'm sure you have, given your passion for bourbon, but if you do look at those different components of a bourbon, and everyone wants something different. Some drinkers want it to burn the entire time, and that's fantastic. But for Country Smooth, and what we try to create and what we're looking to continue to create is a smooth yet still strong enough bourbon. And it's just a funny story about the aroma left over in the glass that I love to tell, and it's genuinely true, is one of our first celebrity golf tournaments that we were involved with was in Palm Springs in the first quarter of 2016, and our team handed out Country Smooth branded shot glasses for each of the golfers. And obviously they came with Country Smooth shots. So 1 year later, we were at the same tournament and I wasn't there. And the director, the food and beverage director for the casino that we were associated with, texted me and said, Lori, you're not here, but this is my once yearly golf outing that I do because it's for my casino. And what I opened up the side component of my golf bag, and the entire small side component smells like Country Smooth, which is like fragrance. So he said the shot glass was empty, but it still had enough of the fragrance inside the glass that now the entire compartment smelled like. So I thought that was the cool story. And
that's awesome.
And that those details are really important to me. formulating this?
I think it's cool. I think you're, like with exactly you said, exactly what you're going for is what you've got. It's like you've got like that smooth. Like you said, you don't want it to be off-putting. Like you don't want to smell it and go, okay, that's a little pungent, like that's a little strong. It's like singeing your nostrils, and it's a bit much. So it's like it's a nice, it's a very inviting like bourbon that you're going to be able to sit down and sip on. And enjoy, and there's gonna be a nice flavor to it, and it's not going to crush you in terms of the proof. It's going to have a nice nose. It's going to have a nice finish. It's never going to really like be off-putting in terms of just experience as a whole. There's not a part of it where you're like, okay, I like this, but I don't really care for how it finishes because it hurts, So I think it's really cool. I think like with the price point of it, I think everything's great. I mean, I really enjoy it.
Thank you. What are your bourbons that you normally drink? If you're obviously outside of Country Smooth, before you even knew about Country Smooth, what are your top three?
So bourbon wise, I've really got into Blue Note recently. For a number of reasons. I really like their whiskey, and I also, having talked to them on my podcast, they're great people, and so it's like you want to support them because they're cool. And they're super nice, and they make good whiskey. So it's like, it's like Country Smooth. Like, of course you want to drink it. Like, you're making good whiskey and you're cool, and you want to, support cool people. When you get to talk to people, if they aren't as cool, you're probably a little less likely to want to, enjoy that. But I've really gotten into Blue Note lately. I like Sagamore rye. I've really got into them, but I know we're not talking bourbon, but yeah, as a rye, I really like that. There is Spirits of French Lick. They have one called the Matty Gladden that I really like. I'm trying to think right now.
That's fantastic.
Probably in terms of craft ones, those are some I really like. I like Penelope a lot. I mean, I try to mix it up because I feel like there's always, something different you can get from them. And you've got different regions that are coming out with cool. So I love Frey Ranch. Frey Ranch is out of Fallon, which is right near Reno, where I went to college. And I didn't even know it, but I used to drink beer in college with the owner. I didn't realize that. And he's a super nice guy.
Oh, that's fun. That's cool.
But it's like, you start to see some of the brands that are coming out and supporting the people. And then, like I said earlier, they're making good whiskey, and you want to enjoy the whiskey, and you enjoy the conversations with people. And to me, like, as you're enjoying whiskey, and like, again, some of the nicer bottles that I have that I would consider like a top shelf type of a bottle, it's like, it's going to be good and you're going to enjoy it, but it really comes down to the company that you're with, and, sharing stories and chatting and hanging out and having a good time, and remembering that you were drinking this, whatever allocated bottle at that time. So I think there's a time and a place for all sorts of different bottles, and it's like you want to use it for the occasion or the company, and enjoy it in that way. That to me is the most fun part of it, really.
Yeah, absolutely.
As you were talking about this, take me through some of the notes that you're going to get off of this. Like, talk about that nose you were mentioning, and everything that you get out of this. Pour a little more.
Interesting. Well, I definitely get a vanilla and caramel note for sure. Clearly a spice, but not an overwhelming spice. What about you?
Yeah, I get a little bit of a spice, but not going full mash bill on it, but like you get kind of like the rye spice out of it. But like I said, it's not overwhelming. You don't get, it's like I will not equate it, but as an example, I'm not personally a big fan of, I'm not gonna say the bottle, but it's a widely distributed national brand that has a paper cover on it. It's a 80 proof, and it's a high rye, and it's like caramely. But I think that is also kind of hidden with a really high rye spice. So you get like a really sweet caramel with like a rye, and it's like, for me, it doesn't really mesh. Like that 80 proof with the high rye, it's like caramely and spicy. It's just, I don't know, it doesn't work for me. I'm not a fan. So I like the rye spice. I have definitely gotten into higher rye bourbons. I like having a little bit of spice, but I also like kind of that mellowness of the corn. So some of the ones that are lower in rye that do have that corn, or like the higher even malted barley that gets that like cereal note out of it. I definitely enjoy those. So I like the fact that there is a little spice to it, but it's
Right.
not, overbearing with spice. It's not like it's trying to kick it up a
Overpower
notch.
and dominate.
Yeah, like it's there, so you enjoy it, but it's not gonna be the first note that you get
So do you pick up a cinnamon in that? I mean,
on the
I
nose.
hear your experience with our small batch.
I don't get cinnamon. I get more. It's weird to me. Like when I taste it, I definitely get like a honey out of it, but not like a sweet honey. Like we not. I think honey is a weird one because it's like honey is a very distinct flavor. Because I think you put the texture of honey over the flavor of it, but I definitely get like a touch of honey on it, which I think is really nice.
That's in
But
our tasting notes.
is it?
Yes, those are in our tasting notes. Yes. So we had notes received from a few of our initial tasters. I wrote my set of notes, which I think are important. I compared them to
Mhm.
different tasters. And with honey, chocolate, and toasted oak aroma with a cinnamon introduction, followed by the vanilla and caramel smooth finish.
Mhm.
It's interesting because the spice,
Mhm.
honey, is definitely what was intended to be picked up. And so I'm glad you mentioned that, both of those. And I think spice and I now consider myself a bourbon drinker, a whiskey drinker for sure. I wasn't in 2014.
Yeah.
Clearly, I am. And I think that whether we're drinking bourbon or rye-based whiskeys, a little bit of the spice is inherently expected and
Yeah.
appreciated. And it's just the level of that spice is determined by if you're heavy in the bourbon or if you want to go more to rye. So we definitely wanted that to be a part of what you're experiencing, but not overwhelming.
Yeah, and like you said, there's definitely I don't get the kick on the front end. I definitely get more spice at the end. And it kind of ends and then it's like a dry finish. Which I think is kind of nice. I think I personally like that. I like some like a dry wine almost, like the ones that finish dry to me, I think are really nice because it's almost like your next sip, you get to like kind of experience it over again. And I definitely dig that part of it. I don't get cinnamon though,
Okay.
because I will say there's one that's overly cinnamony that I don't care for necessarily.
Right.
And so maybe I just don't pick that up.
Right.
Um,
Which is, and this is, so that's great. I think again, we all have different taste buds and we all go toward
yeah.
places with that. Um, and I think it's probably more of a smaller cinnamon introduction, but maybe not for everybody. I definitely taste the honey in that,
Yeah.
and and the spice in the back end. I love.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that, but it's not too. It's not on the front end. That was the intention, um, for sure. So, and it's the bourbon industry is pretty fascinating. And I mean, I didn't even know at the time when I started the business what constituted a bourbon over like a rye based whiskey,
Mm,
and so it's so fun to learn about all of this and really learn about the different companies that exist and how, where they exist and how
yeah.
science is behind, or not even science, but how they formed their distillery, or in our case, we obviously contract,
Mm,
we formulate and we custom formulate, and obviously we put together the entire package you're looking at. So it's been pretty exciting and fascinating. And now that we're not only expanding our geographical presence, you know, also expanding our product line. So that's been really fun to do. Being able to formulate and design from a packaging perspective additional products has been really, really a fun part of Country Smooth for me. I hadn't done for a few years. So it's been a really exciting growth period for us. COVID came in and it was, I think, challenging at some points for craft,
Sure.
but also great. And now that things have sort of cleared up, I know that we're going through some, from COVID perspective, challenges, but the alcohol industry is definitely giving some opportunities for brands like Country Smooth to grow. So we're thankful for that.
Yeah, I think I really like, not to go, I mean, going back to tasting notes, I like how it finishes like on the top of your tongue. Like, you know, you get some of them that kind of feel like they're finishing towards the side of your tongue. Like this finishes on the top. Like it's a very, like you said, that spice at the end is really nice. It's not spicy the whole way through. I think you've done what you've set out to do with the whiskey itself. But I think from a brand perspective, what's cool, like I have to imagine from your perspective, it's got to be awesome as you're expanding with products and you're expanding, like you said, you're getting notified of a new state that's, you know, that you guys are selling in. Like that's got to be really cool. It's just a whole new market. And now you're adding a new product like that. Seeing that expansion from your perspective has just got to be incredible.
No, it's incredible, and I had no idea all that goes into expanding into a new state. And obviously, people who are watching us from the liquor industry know, but every state. So alcohol, as I'm sure you know, that's a very, very highly regulated three-tiered system. So Country Smooth and other brands, like you mentioned, every alcohol company has to have a license approved and the brand registered in every state in which they're selling. So it's not like, you know, we don't have a federal license that allows us to go into Oregon next month or Washington in, you know, October. What we have to do preemptively as a company is obtain a license, apply for a license, and approval could take anywhere from 3 days to 3 months, depends on the state. And then once that's approved, then we have to register the brand in the state. And normally you don't get a license until you know a distributor in the open states wants to carry you. And now, I mean, I'm sure it was difficult before, but there are so many alcohol companies that are vying for distribution in each of the 50 states in the US and obviously internationally. So, you know, it's a very, very crowded industry right now, especially in brown liquor. So being able to convince a distributor and or a retailer like Total Wine or Beverages and More or Winn-Dixie. In fact, we're launching in 175 Winn-Dixie stores in Florida in September and 30 of their stores in Louisiana. But convincing that chain why they need to add Country Smooth to their stores as well as distributor is complex. So you add that times however many states you distribute it in, that in itself, licensing, distribution approval, setting pricing, marketing strategies, working with retailers, whether it's a chain retailer or independent, as well as bars, it's a very complex model. So it definitely is not just me. Clearly, I couldn't on my own. That's far too much. There are too many hurdles and obstacles, and you name it. So unfortunately, I have a team that supports the efforts. So being able to achieve that, just those logistical hurdles in terms of licensing, being able to get, we have phenomenal distribution partners in each state. I'm very proud to be associated with, to be able to have their support because they're selling Country Smooth in addition to our efforts. It's huge. The retailers, we have many chain retailers that we're selling through as well as independents, and key bars is awesome. But at the end of the day, as you know, Tony, the consumers have to want to drink Country Smooth. So all of the expansion and the product line extensions, all that's fantastic. But at the end of the day, if consumers do not ask for Country Smooth or want to buy it, it doesn't really matter how much. So for me, it's my job to make sure all of those different layers of approvals are there on a consistent basis in every state in all the stores, in all the bars, that people know who Country Smooth is, what the company was founded on in terms of our culture and our principles, and that we're committed to developing really high quality products that people can enjoy neat, over ice, their own cocktails, at an affordable price point. And that right there is my mission and my daily objectives for Country Smooth.
That's awesome. That's perfect. I'm going to end it on that. That's outstanding. Where can you be found on social media? What's the best way for people to find you?
Our web address, right? Our web address is countrysmooth.com. And we are on Instagram at Instagram. Can we make sure to sub out the way I just botched Instagram?
You got it. Yep.
We can be found on Instagram at Country Smooth Spirits. We're also on Facebook, Country Smooth Spirits. I'm on Instagram at Carcich. I know you and I follow each other, and I like to watch what you're doing.
Yep.
We are, again, distributed in 23 states and growing. And always people can buy us online through our website if we're not found at a local store near you.
That was gonna be my next question. Perfect. It's always convenient when you can buy it online, because that's, because there's a lot of whiskeys out there that you cannot find, like, unless you're in a certain region. And I'm sure it makes it a lot easier for sales or distribution, or just getting it in people's hands to have accessibility online. That's huge.
And during COVID, more than ever, we found that we have to have an online portal, a way for people to be able to purchase online. And our online presence is definitely growing. We have one outlet, soon to be a few more than that. But we are, if you go to our website, it's one of the buy now buttons on our locations page.
Perfect. I'll make sure to add a link on there so people can go straight to it.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Well, Tony, it's been a pleasure. And I have to conclude
Definitely
by saying that my 10-year-old son, who lives and breathes baseball, he plays baseball, his Little League All-Star team finished their All-Star tournament in the second what division? They won their first division, they lost their second division. He's a pitcher and he takes it very serious. And when I told him about you a while ago and even last night, he said, Mom, Mr. Tony has the best job. I want to be.
That's awesome.
One day.
That's great. I'll make sure to
baseball and bourbon,
Definitely. Could be a lot worse.
Got it.
Yeah, could be a lot worse. Awesome. Lori, thank you so much. I really appreciate the time. And thanks so much for sending me these. I'm definitely going to probably not slow down now and go ahead and enjoy them.
Thank you. Well, we'll send you more of that, where that came from, and our country mule. As soon as we get that first bottling run done, you'll be one of the first to receive a couple of bottles.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I can't wait to try it out.
Thank you for your support.
Cool.
It's been an absolute pleasure and honor. We appreciate what you do for our industry. And I hope to be back here again sometime in the near future.
Definitely. We'll reconnect and talk about the new products.
Sounds great. Fantastic.
All right. Thanks, Lori.
Cheers. Thank you.